Hello, everyone, and welcome. You have chosen the Scenic City Sports Podcast, your destination for local sports news, be it high school, be it professional, or whether you just want to listen to us ramble on about professional wrestling or old Seinfeld quotes or crazy movies that we all like. Welcome to the Scenic City Sports Podcast, brought to you by the fine folks at Gary Thacker Insurance over at 2382 Battlefield Parkway. You can reach them at 706-866-8283. Also, the Chattanooga Flower Market, 8016 East Brainerd Road, 423-899-2440. Phil's Primetime Pizza down in beautiful Chickamauga, Georgia, 122 Gordon Street. That's 706-375-4448. Our good friend Greg Payne, host of Restricted to the Dugout with Greg Payne and the Payne Mortgage Team. You can reach them at 423-645-9404 for all of your mortgage needs. And finally, Choo Choo Barbecue, who make it possible for us to bring you the scoreboard on Friday nights. The Choo Choo Barbecue of Chickamauga scoreboard. You can reach them at 12960 U.S. Highway 27 at 706-375-7675. And as Ringo Robb likes to say, you don't know Q until you know Choo Choo. We also want to say a special thank you to Matthew Mays and the good friends and members of Jupiter Coyote, one of our favorite bands, and they provide the music for the show. Those guys have always been great to us, and we hope you guys will reach out and try to check out their music as well. So sit back and relax and hold on, and we'll see where we get to. And welcome everybody to Scenic City Sports Podcast, episode 20 on your... Well, I would say on your radio dial, but I guess it's more like if you're in the old school thinking, but on your computer, on your Facebook, on your Google, on your Twister Apple, dial. Spotify.
Twister dial.
Yeah, because we are available at this point. We are available on multiple multimedia platforms. And Rusty, Scott, and Rob, glad to have you here. We got a friend in the house with us. We're going to see if we can't coax him onto a microphone here before the night's over with. But welcome, everybody. It's been a week or so. We took a little bit of time off. I had a Vanderbilt appointment myself, and the wifey and I made our way to God's country, and that is the land of the bluegrass and the bourbon.
And some people might say you've been out there bootlegging like Smokey, the Bandit did, but you went north and south instead of east and west.
It is funny that you say that, Rob, because I'm going to tell you a really funny story real quick. Me and a history teacher, I'm always down on anything that I can find out historical, and I found out. So we go to my wife and I. We visited 4 distilleries that we actually did the tours on. We visited
the snowman.
Yeah, and we visited 9 total. So one of the tours, we went to a place called Stitzel Weller, which is the distillery that was actually started by Julian Van Winkle I. And for those of you out there that know bourbon, or those out there that don't know bourbon, Scott, Julian Van Winkle I is who?
Pappy.
That is Pappy Van Winkle, as everybody knows. So the $1,500, $2,000 bottle Pappy Van Winkle bourbon that everybody sees out there, that is the man that it is named after.
Or the $55,000 commemorative.
Yeah, exactly.
Showed you that with the pound 23 in it.
So we go to this distillery, and they are talking about this black junk that grows on all the buildings, all the trees, all around anywhere that makes liquor. And so someone inevitably asked in the group, what is all that black stuff? And the lady said, well, that's what you call the whiskey fungus. And she said, if you distill spirits, at some point, the after effect of it is you will spill some to the ground, and it causes that virus to grow on everything. They call it the whiskey. Yeah, it's a moss. So they call it the whiskey fungus.
It's a symbiote.
Well,
it's venom.
It's venom. So in Kentucky, back in the day of Prohibition, when it was illegal to distill spirits unless you had a pharmaceutical license, and a bunch of the distilleries had a pharmaceutical license.
Is sports related?
It is sports related. Absolutely. No, it's not. But I'm going to say it anyways. Okay. So everybody in rural Kentucky, if you ever drive through there, you will notice that all the barns and all of the fences and a lot of the trees up to a certain point are painted black. Oh. They are painted black, and the reason is to hide the moss. That way, the revenuers in the early days would ride around, and whoever they saw that had moss on their property, they would know that they were probably distilling spirits there. So instead, everybody painted all their barns and all their fences black to hide all their buddies.
Andy and Barney were struggling
That's
to
right.
figure out which one it really was.
I think that's a cool story, man. I mean, I think that's one of those, that's
be a
taking care of your own right there.
Can you make a pop quiz and be an extra bonus?
Absolutely, I could. I could do a whole podcast on just bourbon. But it's let's just get right into it. And we had
extra credit to show how you actually distill something.
That's right. Bring some for extra credit. So, big sports week over the last week and a half or so since we've been on here. We had the start of the NASCAR season. Formula One got into testing this weekend. The NBA is still in full swing. There's already spring training games being played, Major League Baseball. You've got most of our teams in this area are out at this point, basketball-wise. We do have Notre Dame is still in. Is Brainerd still in?
I was
going to say I hadn't paid.
Beat Tyner,
yeah,
and then I haven't seen.
Well, I know Notre Dame is going to the Final Four.
I think they're getting ready to play the public schools. They're getting ready to play for like region titles because I know Sale Creek and Whitwell girls play like tomorrow night, and I'm sure there's other ones around here too. The private schools might be a little bit further on in the state playoffs.
Well,
like I said, North Georgia, most of the ones around here.
They're done. I mean, LFO boys went out this past Monday. LFO girls went out Friday night after a first-round victory. Got beaten second round by the defending champion, Lumpkin County. We did have Brent Bowman officially signed to go to school at Shorter College.
And I saw where Bryson Sullivan committed to Shorter.
Bryson Sullivan also committed to Shorter.
Girls made the second round of the playoffs.
We may see Bryson Sullivan punting the football one of these days.
Yeah.
Somewhere other than
I didn't get to see the kid play that much, but I did see him.
He has a leg, man.
In the Ringo game, so that was the only time I spotted him.
Yeah, first team All-State, AJC. I mean,
and had the ability to get the ball above the lights. I think. Sure.
Yeah,
where you can't find it.
I mean, he averaged about 45 yards a kick this season with good hang time. Got it inside the 20. Not a whole lot of return yards. He was an absolute weapon for him, and had a good strong leg on kickoffs and field goals as well. But yeah, he's one of the better punters we've had come through here in a while.
And let me bring this up since we haven't had the opportunity to talk about it. We endeared Robert Akins exiting from us after so many years, but there's another one that's heading back west, Scott, that's been around, it seems like, since the existence of our work almost. And that's Phil Massey, formerly of the Baylor Red Raiders, 1 year over at CCS, heading back out to
where he's from.
Right, actually going to Christian Brothers, if that's not the one.
Briarcrest, yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Saints.
He came from here from MUS, but another gem of a coach that's been in our area now for a long time. Yeah. And let me say something. This might catch you off guard, but me and him were having this conversation a few years ago. He had surpassed games coached by Red Eder and Hayward.
Yeah,
which both had their names on the facilities over there. Now that's saying a lot.
And came close to winning 3 state titles.
It doesn't necessarily surprise me with.
Didn't they play in the finals 3 times?
Coach Eder, more so than Coach Eder at Baylor, doesn't necessarily surprise me because how many years did he coach at Central before he went to Baylor? I mean so he didn't necessarily. While he had a very long storied career, his Baylor career wasn't near as long as you would think.
But again, success took place over there.
Absolutely.
Just like it did at the Central days. But again, I think, Rusty, if you would ask some average fan on the streets who's the longest, participating coach that was ever at the school of Baylor, they might not think of Phil.
I don't know.
They might think of Red Eder or Hayward.
I was going to say, I don't know that Phil would be in their top
But
2 or 3 guesses.
He coached more games over there for any Baylor.
How many years was he there? 10? 12?
No. I think me and him talked about it. I think it was 16.
God, I mean, I remember when he got there.
Yeah, we did.
Because you and I used to go out there when we were a tag team. Sometimes on Friday nights, we went out there many a time.
And then another possibly a surprising move. I think I think the more I've learned about it, it's not as much, but it was at the moment. But Scott Chandler leaving Tyner.
That one, I was kind of curious.
I had no idea. Was there that far? I did not.
How far was he driving?
From almost Rome.
Oh God, yeah, you could see that.
That's a long way.
Well, and we had what's his name up there at Meg's.
Jason Fitzgerald.
Yeah, now going to Sale Creek. I mean, Sale Creek's putting everything in place to maybe build something there.
And somebody asked me this: did Jason commit to Sale Creek 1 week too soon? Would he have been interested in the Tyner job? I said I really think that Sale Creek, because he likes those community schools, that I think he would have chose Sale Creek again over Tyner. Tyner's in a little bit too. You've got a 2 to 3 year limbo going on over there as well, because it's going to take that long to put a new school back up. And from a facility standpoint, if he's even just practicing, I don't even know where they'll do it at.
Well, I mean, to me, you look at those two jobs, and I would look at it like this.
Yeah, we know Tyner's had all those athletes through the years.
Right. If I go to Tyner, I know that I am going to a storied program that already has its legends. There's already state championships on the books. Everything that I do is going to be compared to somebody else that came before me. But if I go to Sale Creek, I mean, their record.
Somebody else did the hard work of getting it up off the ground.
But at the same time,
waiting on the facilities.
Their record book is.
Ron Cox needs to be.
Oh, absolutely.
Everything he did.
Well, 9 or 10 years of.
But my point is their record book is a pamphlet at this point.
Sure.
If I go up there, I've inherited this program that is on the right track. If I do anything up there, I'm the man that puts my stamp on it for years and years and years to come.
Well, there is no doubt in my mind, barring something that I don't know will take place negatively, that Jason Fitzgerald won't make them successful within a few years. He will.
He's done it everywhere. He's done it everywhere.
It's amazing to me, some of these coaches, and you can think of many. I mean, Robert Aiken comes to mind. You can think of Quarles. You can think of what's the old boy that used to be at that was at Maryville for Quarles was at Maryville. Who's the one that was at that was at Alcoa forever? Rankin.
Gary Rankin.
Yeah, I mean those guys like that. It doesn't matter where you put them. They can get more out of less than I don't know what it is. Do they have some magical witch's brew that they cook up the minute they walk in the door? But I mean, those guys get kids to buy in, and they take kids that normally wouldn't have been successful, and they get every last drop of effort out of them they can get.
Let's go back to Robert Akins. Robert Akins inherits, when we first meet him, he comes to town, he takes over a lonesome boy Buchanan that can't beat anybody. He leaves it better than he got it, right, guys?
I agree.
He plays for 3 state championships, wins one, and he's kicking himself for the other one. I know. He comes to Ringo, stays 15 plus years. He's the winningest coach in the history of that school.
Second winningest.
He's the winningest percentage wise.
Percentage wise, yeah.
Patterson
probably.
or
Patterson.
Don Patterson's most,
If you go by total win,
but he was there a whole lot longer.
True, he was there about 30. He was about twice as long.
Yeah.
But he's left it better than he got it.
And that's what you want to do as a coach. And a lot of times the people that go in there and they start a program maybe aren't the ones that sees the benefits down the line. I mean, we can name a number of schools, newer schools around here that got started, but people got to get it started, and they get it to a certain point, and somebody else takes it.
Well, you're just talking about Coach Cox. He did the hard labor.
Yeah,
he did the hard labor, and he brought that to a point that he feels good walking away from, and Jason will win with it.
Did want to mention this: the 2023 Greater Chattanooga Sports Hall of Fame banquet. It's coming up.
Well, I saw at least one really good friend of ours.
Monday, March 13th. Here are the inductees and the award winners. Baseball, David Owen and Chris Richardson.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Men's basketball, Brandon Bourne.
Ringo.
Who UTC fans are
they still curse his. Well, no, Brandon. No, Jerry is the one that they curse his name. Jerry's the one that hit the shot for.
Jerry.
Yeah, Jerry's the one that hit the shot for
yes.
Davidson in the corner that won the Southern Conference Championship. Brandon played for him.
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I apologize. My
It's
bad.
all
I got
right.
confused. Brandon from Ringo.
Yeah.
And Orlando Lightfoot.
Wow. Hell of a dude too, man. If you've never sat and had a conversation with Orlando, he's a
Brainerd,
hoot.
right?
Yeah.
Brainerd. No, Orlando Lightfoot went to City. Remember, it was Malcolm Mackey that went to
Malcolm
Brainerd.
Mackey was Brainerd.
It was
My bad.
And Orlando is still
Now
big time
showing
involved
my-
in the Boys and Girls Club of Chattanooga, and I mean he's still very active in the community and stuff. Hell of a guy.
Women's basketball, Jody Adams,
Yeah.
Bradley Central, and Venus Lacey.
Yeah, she's
Brainerd.
she's.
She was
Don't
winning
tell me
Olympic
I mean,
medal.
she's kind of decent, I guess.
Yeah, I drive on the Venus Road all the time.
Yeah, that's right. Venus Lacey Parkway.
Joe Smith for boxing.
Yeah.
Durwood Higgins for cycling. Chris White
Chris
for
White.
football. Former, I believe he went to, was he McMinn or Bradley?
Bradley.
Yeah.
And, I think led, I want to say he was Tennessee's
Durwood Higgins. That's
interception leader at one point.
I like that name.
Led the nation one year. I think he was on that Sugar Bowl team.
That might be my new favorite athletic name from Chattanooga.
you're right.
Durwood Higgins. I dig that.
Gary Partrick for golf. I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, what did he do?
I mean, he's only got more state.
Bought a lot of
championships
mulligans.
Yeah.
than He has fingers and toes.
Sold a lot of mulligans.
How many rings does he have now?
He's got enough to start a third hand.
That's what I thought. I mean, I thought he was at like 13, 14, something like that.
Something like that. It's something ridiculous now, man. It's incredible.
I just want one.
Officials and administrators, Doug Dennett and Doug Roy. Soccer, another friend of ours, Curtis Blair.
Yeah.
Softball, Nelson Thorson. Todd Agnew for sports.
Good old
media.
Todd.
Vista and Scruggs Mahan for swimming. Arlene Hale Hughes and Priscilla Robinson Murray for volleyball. Brad Jackson for wrestling.
Heck yeah.
The Reggie White Male Athlete of the Year, Cole Strange. The Catherine Neely Female Athlete of the Year, Ryan Howard, who's now playing in the WNBA.
Yeah,
of course,
yeah.
Cole's with the Patriots now.
She went to Kentucky, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The Morgan Morris Award, Tylen Kokauskas. Betty Probasco Award, Carlene Ryan, and the Fred Gregg President's Award to Brenda Lawson. And we can't forget the Walt Lauder Award. And, of course, we all know who Walt Lauder is.
Oh, yeah.
From our days hearing about him from Stump, and his name's still on the field up there. The Walt Lauder Award, our buddy, Tim James.
Couldn't think of a better recipient. I mean, Tim is one of those guys. There's another good example of a guy right there that built a program in a place where a lot of others could not have done that.
Yes.
Leaves that program for an opportunity and still comes back home to finish out.
Yeah.
I mean,
and set the foundation for a heritage program that has become.
So I gotta tell this story, and it's on two. Go ahead. Go ahead.
In case you're wondering, the banquet is Monday, March 13th, Chattanooga Trading Convention Center. Doors open at 5:30. Banquet begins at 6. If you'll go to chathalloffame.org, there's a link for ticket information, email address, stuff like that.
So two of the recipients in that Chattanooga Hall of Fame class, the story was told to me as is follows. So the Chattanooga Police Department were supposed to have a class on takedowns. And the person who was going to teach this class on takedowns was none other than Ultimate Fighting Champion Hoist Gracie.
Wow.
Fresh off of his second straight and en route to what should have been his third title, but that's a title when he basically got dehydrated before the finals and he couldn't see. And he basically just told his corner, he's like, if you'll point me in the direction I can get my hands on the guy, I'll still beat him. And they were like, no, we can't do that. So, Chattanooga Police Department is supposed to have this class. The venue that they are supposed to have said class in winds up calling them like 2 or 3 days ahead of time and says, we didn't realize this, but we double booked. We can't do this. So they start calling around. So the Chattanooga Police Department calls Eastridge High School, and they get Tim James, and they ask, Coach, would it be possible for us to use your gym? Well, he talks to some of the other coaches, and Brad Jackson says, absolutely, he could use our gym, but can I roll around with him at least once? Because Jackson was a hell of a wrestler in his day. Many will say he's one of the 2 or 3 best in the Chattanooga area ever. And Coach James said, well, yeah, I want to do that too. And so basically their condition was Hoist Gracie and the Chattanooga Police Department could use their gym
if you'll take on a handicap match.
But they got to wrestle him for a second. And I remember asking Coach James, I said, well, how'd you do? And he goes, not good. And I said, well, how did Jackson do? And he goes, well, no, Jackson did pretty good. He goes, he managed to hang with him for a little bit. He goes, I didn't do good at all.
That guy was
he's a beast.
Oh, and let me say this about Brad Jackson, just do me a little. Tyner grad, year behind me, goes on to do his first stint of coaching, I believe, at Eastridge.
He was at Eastridge for a long time.
Might have been somewhere for a second before that, but did a lot of it there. And then he got into administration. He was athletic director when East Hamilton opened up. He was then transferred back over to a similar title at Ooltewah. And then when he went into that big job for the county, held on to that for a while till he's retired. I don't know what he's doing now.
Probably as little as possible. That's what I'd be doing. Brad's just a good guy, though, man. He's like Brad and Tim both are the kind of guys that, like, as an outsider, when you get to know those guys, you cheer for them no matter what they do. They're just good dudes.
Well, and Tim taking over a job that his dad had for probably 2 decades, I guess, and maybe even from. His dad had Eastridge in the heyday of Eastridge.
Oh, yeah.
And then Tim got it maybe on a trailing out situation, but did a good job with it. And Scott just mentioned, he did lay the groundwork for Heritage.
Well, he did, and I could sit here and tell funny Tim James Heritage stories all day long because I know a bunch of them because I know parents that had kids on those teams and stuff like that. But you're exactly right. I mean, he went down there and he did the heavy lifting that put them on a path that would get them eventually to where they are right now. And I mean, right now, they're in a pretty decent position.
I think 6 or 7 straight playoff appearances.
It's always going to be inevitably that the problem for any of us up here is we are north of Atlanta, and we just play a different brand of ball than they play south of Atlanta.
Well, and let me just say this, and I ran into somebody coincidentally this week whose son played for Coach Prost down at Colquitt and talked about some of the things that they did as a football program, but was approved all the way at the top. And I don't mean assistant principal or principal, Rusty.
You're talking about all the way to superintendent.
All the way at the top, they say this is fine.
Yeah.
That doesn't go on here.
No.
That's not approved at that level. No. And that's the commitment level that south of here tends to have in their sports.
Well, and in their defense, they have one high school in that county.
That was what I was going to say. I mean,
it also is a 7A high school.
We have 3,
and you can still make that same concession if you want to do it.
You have to do it for every single school, and there's just no money.
You do have to do it.
But the other thing too is, I mean, lest we forget, really, when you get around Macon and below, Statesboro, Lowndes, Valdosta, all those schools down there, you have to remember. When a kid goes to work up here during high school, summertime or whatever, the job options are like, they can go flip burgers at McDonald's, or they can go be a server at, Olive Garden, or they got a bunch of different things they can do. But lest you forget that most of those kids in South Georgia grow up on farms. And from daylight until dark in the summertime, they're out there throwing bales of hay and stuff like that. So, I mean, they got kids that walk in the door that up here we would look at and be like, damn, did he drop the wife and kids off before he got off the bus? I mean, they have offensive linemen that average 6'3", 280 plus, and we just don't have that. I mean, they're just good old-fashioned, old-school country mean. You don't teach that. You either are or you are not.
At First Block football coach had in this particular county we're talking about, he has his football team, First Block. You know what it's primarily for?
Probably game planning.
Feeding.
Well, yeah.
To make sure that
Doesn't surprise me a bit.
They're eating the way we want to. Come back, got them again. Fourth block for lifting. Now those are the things that at the top has to agree to. We would love to our football coaching programs here would love to have it too.
Oh yeah,
but they're not going to get it.
Yeah, but that means that you are in an average school day. That means that you are making sure. Because you have to have 4 credit classes a year. You know, you have to have the 4 majors. You have to have a math class, a science class, history class, English class. So that means basically.
I didn't say they were committed to those.
Well, I'm just thinking that that's what makes. I'm curious of are those
how they go about getting that.
Yeah, are they block system? Are they 7 periods like other schools are? I'd be curious to. I would really just. As an educator, I'd be curious of what their model is.
They got to accommodate that too. Somehow,
that's what I'm saying. I mean, sometimes and I guarantee you there is intensive tutoring involved in some of that as well. Because especially during the football season, if you're taking 2 classes away automatically,
what if you allowed that to happen for the first semester and not the second semester?
Well, that means the second semester, then those kids are working their behinds off because you're basically in the first semester you're going to give them 2 classes so they can take 2 of those credit classes. They can take 2 more credit class. Like if they were on block system like we are, it'd be 2 credits the beginning, 2 credits in the second half, and then they might can take 2 electives outside. You're in a really it's a weird that's. Athletics in this vicinity of the state of Georgia and Southeast Tennessee, we like our athletics and we love for our kids to be successful, and we do a lot of things that we can do to make our kids successful. But we also try to look at what can we do educationally to make our kids successful in the long run, as opposed to what can we do right now for the football program to be successful. And so it's while I think I applaud them for being able to do that, and I understand what the idea is behind it, you're doing those kids a disservice by doing that. But at the same time, you know it as well as I do. That's West Canaan Coyotes right there. I mean, that is Friday Night Lights. That is Varsity Blues. That's every movie you've ever seen come to life right there in those South Georgia towns.
If you're measuring your plaque wall on state championships, then in their minds, they're doing it right.
Well, yeah. I mean, region championships, state titles.
That's the way that they're measuring themselves.
Yep. No, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. And that don't make it right. Don't make it wrong. I mean, there ain't a thing wrong with that. If it's a model that's been working for years and years, and there's industry around the area where when those kids graduate, they know that they're going to work here, there, or the other place. I mean, there is things that, and that's the thing too. I mean, when you go to South Georgia and you look around, I mean, go towards Jekyll Island and those areas down there. There's not a lot of industry in that area. I mean, you're going to work for Goodyear down there, or maybe Coca-Cola or Budweiser, but I mean...
The other train of thought may be rusty that, and not every kid's going to play college football, but
they're not.
But there might be more of, and so they may be thinking, go on and get that education.
Well, yeah, you got to get
the next level.
Yeah, you can make up what you didn't get,
from us.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Don't get me wrong, I get it. I mean, I do.
And I'm not breaking down what they're not doing academically, as opposed. I'm just talking about the commitment level that they have, and there's other states that have it too.
Yes.
I'm sure Texas and Florida do as well.
So, I don't want to completely break off. I mean, we can come back to football in a minute, or we can come back to whatever in a minute. But I can't let.
I have another trivia for you.
Ooh. I can't let go what I read last night without us at least talking about it a little bit. Did the Braves really lose a ball game on a?
They didn't. They didn't lose.
They tied a ball game on a hitter violation.
I don't know if it was bases loaded, but I think the winning run was in.
Was it Olsen that got it called on him, or?
I can't remember who it was, but it was 6-6, bottom of the ninth, full count, 2 outs, and he didn't face the pitcher. Or he was getting adjusted in the box or whatever, and you only have like 7 or 8 seconds now.
Yeah, and if you throw the ball to strike, right?
No, if you're not done within that allotted time, it was on the batter. It was on the batter.
What was the old guy that
he wasn't set I guess, facing the pitcher, getting ready to hit. He might have just been looking off or looking around or digging in or whatever. And the umpire said, that's strike 3, time violation, you're out. And it was a tie.
Because it was a spring training game.
Yeah, spring training game. But here's the thing. You have to know.
They got to learn it there if that's the rules.
Yes. You have to know this has been the point of emphasis all offseason. They're talking about shortening the game. We're going to have this rule, this rule, this rule. You've got to be aware of that. In spring training, the umpires are going to be all over it. Regardless of whether it's a stupid rule or not.
Right.
They're going to be all over it
because they're trying to
get them
They're
ready.
trying to learn the new rule.
Your coaches, you've got to be able to tell your players, get in the box and get ready.
Who was the old boy they called the human rain delay?
No more Garcia Parra.
No, well, him, but I'm thinking of the one they really called that was the one that was the manager of the Cleveland Indians.
Francona?
No, was it Hargrove?
Yeah,
Mike Hargrove. He was the one they called the human rain delay because he was he had all the ticks. And, well, I mean, hell, I remember a kid a few years ago. I remember going to a game. Red Zone and I covered a game at Chattanooga Central. And there was a kid, and I would never give the kid's name, but it's a good thing because I don't remember his name at this point because that's been 20-plus years ago. But this kid was a left-handed batter, and he wore glasses. And he would dig in, and I swear, y'all, if he didn't touch his face 482 times before he finally put that second hand on the barrel of the bat, it would drive me. Oh, my God, he'd adjust his glasses and wipe his forehead off and, kind of give it a little under each arm and, knock the cleats. And,
well, it's going to take a while to perfect. It's going to take a while to perfect the game and keep it on the clock too, Scott, because the game has been in existence for its entire time not on a clock. Wow. And when we used to play ball games at much younger ages and we'd get on a clock, I hated it. I hated that I was looking up there at the clock and saying this thing.
Because you were mindful of it. But in a regular game, you're not mindful of it.
I did see there was a couple of Major League spring training games this week. One took 2 hours and 26 minutes. One took like 2:30. Well, the average time has been like over 3 hours.
Yeah, they're wanting to shorten it.
It's definitely going to shorten it. I don't buy into this. Well, this is what the fans want. The fans want shorter games.
I think the fans want more action.
The fans want to watch the games.
Yeah, they want
they
more
can't
action
because of the blackouts. That's what they want. If you go to a Major League ball game and you look around, a lot of the fans are sitting there on their phones anyway. They're not even paying attention. They're just there for the atmosphere, to get some food, to get something to drink, and just, hey,
there is a portion of that, yes. I agree. I've always said that about minor league ball. It's not about watching them whether they win or lose. It's what going down there and hanging out.
Those are the ones who are probably complaining. Well, the game's too long. Well, you paid $40 a ticket, sat outside for 3 hours. What are you complaining about?
Did y'all see that Johnny Damon made his debut the other night for the Savannah Bananas?
Did he?
No, I did not.
Yeah, so
what's his stick?
Well, I mean, I think it's probably like a 2 or 3 game stint. They probably called him up and said, "Hey, dude, we'll give you like $50,000 if you'll come play 3 games." And he was like, "Yeah, all right."
He wasn't doing naked pull-ups in the locker room.
God knows he don't need the money. But I mean, can you imagine being the opposing kid? On the traveling, because I mean, obviously the Savannah Bananas are playing independent league teams, so they're not playing.
Well, if they're traveling around now, I think they've got like a Washington.
I was going to say it's kind of like the Washington, but can you imagine being that opposing pitcher
they're dragging their own team around?
Yeah, like the Globetrotters.
Yeah.
Well, because a lot of legitimate teams don't want to play them because of all the nonsense that goes along with it, all the music and the dancing and all the stuff. I mean, like we looked at, they're playing the traveling circus that they are doing. We looked at going to see them, I think, in Nashville, and for minor league baseball, it was a ridiculous amount. It was like $75 or $80 a ticket.
Yeah, big time.
And we were like, no, thank you.
Yeah,
I mean, I'll go watch the Lookouts for $80. We can go watch the Lookouts for 5 or 6 games, the 4 of us. I mean, I'm just not interested in that.
Well, we know some people. We might even.
Yeah, I was going to say we do know a guy down there. So I mean,
we know a couple of guys down there. Did you?
You might even been buying ownership.
I think
maybe
we've talked about it before, but did you see?
You could at least get 51%.
Right.
The Netflix documentary, "The Battered Bastards of Baseball."
Yes, about Kurt Russell's dad's team. Kurt Russell played on that team.
Yeah. If you've never seen it, Well, and then Jim Bowden, who wrote Ball, ended up playing.
It's great.
It is. It's a really great.
Bill Spaceman Lee played on that team.
If it's still on Netflix, you haven't seen it, check it out.
It is. No, it's still there. I was on Netflix last night.
It's a great documentary. It's a really
I'll tell you too right now.
The guy that invented Big League Chew ball gum
is on there.
That team.
So number one, if you haven't watched F1 Drive to Survive, season 5 started on Friday night. Season 5 dropped all 10 episodes. They're great. But if you have not watched the new PGA Tour show that is in the same vein as F1 Drive to Survive, you are missing out. If you like golf,
I didn't watch it. I saw it was on.
The first 3 or 4 episodes, they have already made reference to Live Golf 3 or 4 times. The whole aspects of that. The first episode is about the relationship between Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth. They've talked about. They talked about Ian Poulter. Tiger's made appearances on there.
We thought
it's
that could make some good documentary stuff.
It is so good, man. Like they're what's the guys? I'm trying to think of his name.
That may only get better in time.
Daimler, or something like that. He finished 10th in the U.S. Open this past year. He's a cancer survivor. Just amazing story.
But Rusty, let me ask you this, and I've caught a little bit of every tournament since Maui, which is everyone, and some of the names that we know, like Rahm and them, have been having success. But what I'm interested in paying attention to is all these new names that weren't making even making the cut prior to this other group walking away from. So there's some new names out there.
You're definitely getting some. I mean, and it happens every few years. You have a really good class of guys that come in. I mean, I remember the first time I heard Colin Morikawa's name, I was like, who in the world is this? And of course he winds up being what he's wound up being. The same thing with guys like Brooks Koepka and DeChambeau, and I mean all those guys have to come from somewhere. And when you normally, because a lot of people don't watch golf week in and week out, the three of us are.
I like to watch it.
I will turn it on because the reason I like it is because I can turn it on at noon on a Sunday. If I fall asleep for 2 hours and I wake back up, it's still on and I can finish it out.
There are only 3 holes.
I mean, exactly. So I mean, I like that aspect of it, but there's a lot of the regular public don't watch anything but the 4 Masters and maybe a Ryder Cup or a President's Cup, and they'll watch the Players Championship. That's about the extent of what they watch. So we used to laugh about it when I worked in the golf business. We called it who-he disease because, inevitably, like the first couple of days of like the U.S. Open or the Masters, the British Open, it's always, well, who's that? You look at the leaderboard and there's 3 or 4 guys on there that people are like, well, I ain't never heard of that guy. That guy's like 132nd in the world.
And that's your thirsty round.
Yep.
That's your thirsty round that you start to learn new names.
Yes.
That and they may have faded by the end of the tournament, and they may not have.
I will tell you that my favorite thing about golf in the last 3 or 4 years, and really the last 2 years, I will say it that way, is as a guy that grew up watching Jack and all those guys, and then I transitioned when I got to high school and just after, Scott and I, and you as well, Rob. I mean, we've watched Tiger his entire career. And Tiger was always that unapproachable, nobody talks to him. I mean, Scott and I had a Ranger tell us at the Tour Championship that he was one of the 2 or 3 least liked players on tour because he was such a recluse. Well, then he goes through divorce, he goes through damn near-death experience, he goes through having children. And now all of a sudden what I've really enjoyed the last 2 or 3 years is this dynamic with like him and Jordan Spieth and Rory McIlroy and all those, Justin Thomas, all the guys that have gotten to know him, which is awesome. But watching him bring Charlie as a father, watching him bring his kid out there for those father-son events, and can you imagine being Charlie Woods? I mean, you're out there at PGA Tour events playing practice rounds with professionals and talking crap to them the whole time.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the video that's going around right now, and Charlie's on the putting green with JT and his daddy, and he hits a putt, and he makes the point, and it goes in, and he turns around and makes the money sign to the 2 of them like, yeah, you're going to owe me for that one. I'm like, can you imagine being 13, 14 years old and out there with those guys?
And in all honesty, he's what, 6, maybe 7 years away from being on that tour.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I hope that Tiger has been through enough and realizes some of the mistakes he made. If he counts some mistakes, I bet you looking back, he probably regrets not being more personable. But then again, he might not.
He is.
But I hope that, I hope Charlie's as good as him on the course.
I do too.
But I hope he's a little more.
But he's so much fun right now. Like I saw somebody leaked an interview segment with him, and he's sitting in a lounge chair, or he's sitting in like a studio chair, and he's got a black background behind him. So he's obviously he's either at a trade show or something to that effect. And someone asks him about, when you were a kid, how many trophies did you have? Now you think about it. 25 years ago, he would have never ever opened up anything about his life and told a story. Well, in this particular interview, he says, well, the greatest year of my life would have to be when I was 11 years old. And they were like, really? And he goes, when I was 11 years old, he said, eventually my mom made me sell all my trophies. He said, because I'd won 113 by the time I was 11. He goes, but he said, the year that I turned 11 years old, he goes, that summer I went 36-0 in tournaments that I played. And he said, and I just so happened to be dating the prettiest girl at school. He said, so I think my life pretty much peaked when I was 11 years old. And I'm like, he would never have done that 10 or 15 years ago.
But what he's getting to do with his son in these celebrity things, I don't know that Tiger got to do that himself at that age.
Because he didn't.
So when he got to be Mr. 20 coming out, yeah, he kind of had a strong, hard focus out there, and maybe his child has actually been.
Charlie was raised exactly
exposed a
opposite.
Little different,
yep,
and may not go about it.
All you got to do, those of you out there that have HBO Max, if you'll go on HBO Max and watch that documentary about Tiger, and you will watch the stuff that, and literally Earl is on there talking about the things that he put him through.
Yeah.
Talking about the stuff that he did to him on the green. Just, Tiger's ready to hit a putt, and his daddy's over there like clearing his throat. He's over there like playing music on his phone. He's doing all kind, stepping on his ball on the green. I mean, he's just doing like
coaching him in a different way.
But it's like
he was coaching.
It's mind games. It's childish crap that we all do to each other. Pulling your cart over somebody else's ball and looking around, going, "I don't see it, man. I don't know where it's at." Stuff like that. He was getting him ready, yes, for a lot of the stuff that he would face, but at the same time, he was pushing him in ways that some people look at and you're like...
He might have helped develop his personality on the course out
his
there.
Mental toughness.
Yeah. He was doing that,
but we can't knock the
oh God, no! The final product of what he did was amazing. I mean, the results speak for themselves.
And only some craziness is what broke this up, guys.
That I always like to sit back and I'll ask you guys this question. I mean, we've got about 15 minutes left, so I'll ask this one, and Scott can ask this trivia question he's got. If the affairs are never found out,
I was just about to bring this up,
and him and Elin never divorce,
and all the craziness
that follows never comes out,
I think he does,
and he stays on the level that he was on at that time.
He stays with the same swing coach.
Yeah, I mean, where would the number have been then?
I do think he breaks it.
25.
That's what I think. 25, 26. I mean, if he stays healthy.
He was crushing it at the time.
I got to tell y'all something.
But it took so long to find it again.
He won all 4 majors in the Tiger Slam, and then changed his swing.
Yeah. I don't know that.
He knew,
I don't know that
have back issues.
I don't know that this is common knowledge, and this is something that I just learned a week or two ago, because y'all know I love Tiger. He's probably my all-time favorite player, always has been. So the day that Kobe Bryant passed away, nobody told him on the golf course that Kobe had passed. He didn't even know about the helicopter crash. Everybody in his inner circle hid it from him because he was on the golf course playing. Because Kobe, most people don't know, was a close friend of Tiger Woods. And he found out in the post-match interview when the interviewer come up and asked him a question directly about it, and he said, I didn't even know anything had happened. He said, I didn't understand on the golf course why people kept telling me, do it for Mamba. Do this for Kobe. And he said, and I didn't understand this. And he goes, now this makes sense. And he was visibly and audibly shaken up, about to burst into tears listening to this, because he was basically, for the first time, finding out one of his close friends had passed away. Yeah. And, you know, you look at the bubble that he's lived his life in, none of us are ever going to understand what that is like, because he was in a bubble from the time he was 2 or 3 years old. He was on the Mike Wallace show when he was 3 years old with Bob Hope. None of us are ever going to understand what that's like. Ever.
I think we're guessing a little bit.
Yeah.
We're assuming that his son's not had to play that as much, just based on what we're getting.
He's protected those kids, man.
But when he turns 19 or 20 and he's pro out there, will he be an imitation of his daddy, or will it be a softer version of that?
I think the way
with that same talent.
I think he'll use some of the techniques that his dad did, because obviously they work. But I think he'll go about them in a little bit different way, because
we'll have to wait and see.
I just think he'll do things a little bit different.
We'll have to
but I think
his dad may coach him to be different.
I think that Charlie has more than one dad on tour, and I know that sounds weird to say, but I think the way that Tiger has allowed Freddie to be a part of Charlie's life, and JT to be a part of Charlie's life, and Justin to be a part of Charlie's life, and Rory to be a part of Charlie's life. Charlie's not only going to get all the coaching that his dad can give him, but he's going to have those 4 or 5 guys.
That's true.
I mean, you imagine going to a high school match and you got those 5 or 6 guys sitting over there like in hats and sunglasses watching you play, though. I mean, you know, and that's your cheering section.
They're going to take care of who's out there on the tour.
I mean, you think about the day that kid turns pro. His dad set records the day that he turned pro in endorsement dollars. But can you imagine the amount of money that Charlie Woods is going to get the day that he turns pro?
Double.
All right, Scott, we got 8 minutes till the show's over. Give me the trivia question.
Well, we know, history has told us, that Green Bay and Kansas City played in the very first AFL-NFL World Championship game, which later became known as Super Bowl I.
That is right.
But had Green Bay not won the NFL championship game that year, 1967.
Yes.
Or 66, excuse me. And had Kansas City not won the AFL championship game in 1966.
Who would the matchup be?
Who would the Super Bowl I have been?
Dallas Cowboys on the NFC side, because that's the Ice Bowl. Let's see. So
they've been. So we're asking now. We're trying to figure out who Kansas City beat.
Yeah. Raiders.
Nope.
God, if it had been the Cowboys Steelers, that would have been incredible.
No, it would have been.
I know, but I'm just saying, God, that would have been so incredible if Cowboys Steelers could have been in Super Bowl I.
Well, we got to think of who was in that old AFL league.
Chargers?
I mean, they're like 8 teams, so I mean, you got a good chance of guessing it. But
I mean, in '67 was OJ in the league by '67? '66 was OJ in the league already? Okay, so that tells me that's not.
I can't remember.
So it's not the Bills. That tells me.
Bills.
Is it really?
So Bills.
So it would have been Bills Cowboys.
Bills Cowboys.
So they would have played for the Super Bowl 3 times.
Yeah.
Had they played in that original.
Yeah.
Oh, here's my trivia.
Wow.
In the movie Sandlot. When they went to the
great Hambino,
the big victory.
Since I've seen this one.
When they celebrated the big victory,
guarantee you we get Lulu down here. She'd answer this in a second.
What was the name of the chaw?
Oh yeah.
The tobacco? Hang on a second.
No, that's cheating.
I'm calling. We're going to call in a lifeline.
Oh God, I can.
Let's see if she knows it, because she loves this movie.
I can see it. I just can't. I can't get the words to come out.
And who presented it? The kid that played first base.
Yeah.
Whatever his name was.
The great Hambino.
You do have a lifeline.
I'm using my lifeline.
What was the name of the tobacco?
We'll see if she answers.
I'm gonna kick myself for not.
She may not answer. She's literally upstairs.
Here you're worried. You had all.
All right, we got her mom. We'll see if she calls back.
That's okay. I called my wife.
You think she knows?
I called my wife yesterday morning.
I guarantee you that my daughter
left
knows.
The house. I said, "Where are you at?" She's like, "I'm on the couch." I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you."
Yeah, I'm sorry. Didn't realize you were there.
Well, y'all want to give up, or you hope Lulu calls back and gives y'all the answer?
No,
did it have like a Native American?
You've actually already named it in another sport.
Oh man,
Big Chief.
Big Chief. Big Chief.
Big Chief Charles.
Right,
yeah, you were. You were.
I could see it.
It took you
All
another 2 episodes.
Red Band, and I'm like, it's probably not that. That was an actual.
Yeah, that was a real one.
Oh, yeah.
How many kids in the South, the first time they ever had tobacco, took a big chaw of it and threw up within 5 minutes?
Well, I wouldn't exactly say get on the spider and
I know somebody
or the
that
tilt-a-whirl
did because he swallowed the juice instead of spitting.
He didn't understand the whole formula.
He begged and begged and begged and begged for it, and they finally gave it to him. And chew, cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, folks, we appreciate you coming on board with us tonight. We, as always, we have a ball on here. I hope you enjoyed the show tonight as much as we did. Let me go ahead and tell you that if you've got a kid out there that is interested in swimming, don't hesitate to go on Facebook and look up the Catoosa Great White Sharks, because obviously swim season is going to be starting here in the next month or so. We will have an official flyer for them the next day or two, kind of give you some of the details, but they are looking for young swimmers of all ages. Just want to throw that out there real quick before we get off here. But we will be back next week, probably around Wednesday or Thursday. We'll get with you ahead of time and let you know. We'll put it on Facebook, let you guys know we're going to be there. Just want to say we love y'all. We're glad you're all with us. Thank all the All-Star sponsors for being there with us, and we'll catch you again on the flip side.